Hey, family, go ahead on the tag and share. Let's get everybody in. We got an exciting show today, right here. That's right. It's the Greg James Community Show. Let's get everybody. Want to say good afternoon. Want to say good afternoon, and once again, welcome to a Windy Wednesday. That's right, it's a windy Wednesday on the outside, and we're right here on the inside of. That's right, Hallelujah 95.3. I want you to go ahead on the tag and share. I want to get everybody in so that we can begin what I want to say is going to be an exciting broadcast on today. So let's go ahead on and tag and share. Let's get everybody into the broadcast on this Wednesday. So much is going on in and around our city, and certainly there is a lot that is happening. And certainly we want you to tag a neighbor, tag a friend. We want you to come on in as we prepare to, hey, do what we do. And you know what that is. We talk about what's going on. We talk about how it's going on. And then we talk about why it's going on. We're right here on the Greg James Community Show. Listen, so much is happening. We're moving into the election cycle. And listen, there is a race that is truly heating up. That's right. You know what that is. That's right. It is the race between Senator Corey Simon and Darrell Parks. It is on fire. That's right. And there's so much talk being said about that race. It's one that you really want to keep your eyes on. Two powerful individuals vying. Darrell Parks is vying for the seat of Corey Simon, and Corey Simon is standing on the record in which he has made as a senator, making a difference in and around our community. And we cannot take that away from him, no matter what we say. Also heating up in the city of Tallahassee is, that's right, the city commission race. I mean, it is really getting to be a little bit out of hand based on some of the things I've been reading and some of the things that I've been keeping up with. I understand that on the city side of things, Dot Inman Johnson has been given a cease and desist letter from FAMU. That's right, about the using of their trademark in political advertisement. And what they're saying is, hey, stop. Don't be putting our images and our trademark out as a part of your political campaigns. Wow, it's getting hot. Then I understand that the campaign team from Dot Inman Johnson made it clear and publicly criticized her opponent, City Commissioner Curtis Richardson, on a social media post as a girl dad. She says, my opponent should fight harder to protect the right of women. Oh my God. What a word that pierces the heart of any dad who's fighting. And here's a young man who has two daughters. And from what I understand, both of them are the first two sisters in the state of Florida to attend the Naval Academy as Black females. And the post says he should fight harder. Hey, listen, You got to do your research, because I tell you, I wish I could find that song that says it's getting hot in here, because truly, let me tell you something, it's getting hot. Let me see, can I find that? Y'all hold on. Let me see, because I need y'all to know what this election is doing to people. I need y'all to know exactly what's going on. They don't need to plan, because 2024 is like a bonfire around the county. And the songwriter who is part of the R&B clan, I know we're on the gospel station, but I just need y'all to hear this, because I need y'all to know exactly what's going on. What's happening? That's what's happening. What? That's what's happening in the election 2024. Say what? It's getting hot in here. And that's what's going on in and around Leon County, Gadsden County, you name it, Jefferson County. It's getting hot. And, people are losing friendships. Relationships are being destroyed because of what's happening with the election cycle. Hey, don't forget now, breast cancer awareness walk is going to be taking place on Sunday right here at Cascade Park. The registration starts at 2. The walk begins at 3. So you want to make plans to be a part of that. Just trying to make a little news. I understand that our Leon County Superintendent was before the Department of Education Board on yesterday about turnarounding the school, Appalachia. And basically, hearing what I heard and seeing what I saw, he made it clear that, hey, I take responsibility for the actions that has been happening at that school. But there's so much more to it. Stay tuned. I'm going to be doing a special section called Behind the Curtain. That's right. We're going to talk about what's going on behind the curtain. Listen, go ahead on and tag some of your friends. Get everybody in. Want to say good afternoon to Verna. Good afternoon to Pop's Country Kitchen. Good afternoon to Maul Neely. Maul Neely, how are you? Good afternoon to all the fine folks over in Gadsden County. Go ahead on tag, share. Let's get everybody in. I'm here today to talk with a young man who is running for Gadsden County Sheriff. Want to say good afternoon, Mr. William Buckhall. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Pastor?
Man, I'm doing absolutely well. Listen, I'm so excited to have you here. I've been waiting for the moment to get you here so that we can have a conversation. I mean, for the next 45 minutes, it's going to be you and I. I don't even think I'm going to take a break, because I got so much I want to ask you. I got so much I want to talk to you about, because I feel like it's so important that people understand where we are when we look at the times that we're living in, especially with law enforcement. And when we take a look at law enforcement, it is one of the most important offices that anyone can hold, because you're talking about the safety of our community.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about you. I mean, I listened to the forum you all had the other night, and I did not know all of your life you grew up in Gadsden County.
Definitely a native of Gadsden County. Been there all my life. Attended all the public schools in Gadsden County, so I wasn't sheltered. I was definitely out there with everybody in the streets, and it was just, we were all a big happy family. Coming up in the 80s and the 90s. My wife is also a native from Gadsden County. All my kids basically grew up in and around Gadsden County with all the people in Gadsden County. I started my career in 2000 when WA was the sheriff in law enforcement in Gadsden County, and Marsh took office in 2004, and recently had to resign in May because of the new resign to run law. So I have 24 and a half years of law enforcement experience.
Wow. So you are, I mean, really and truly, you really eat Gadsden County, sleep Gadsden County, breathe Gadsden County.
Gadsden County is my roots. As Judge Gardner says, that's her dirt. That's my dirt too. That's
wow.
where I come from.
Wow. And then over 20 plus years in law enforcement. What made you make the law enforcement choice?
Family background and just, a heart of trying to help people. That was my biggest thing. And that's the way I've always been. Just try to help people as much as I can. Do anything to try to help anybody.
Wow. So over 20 years in law enforcement, and I'm sure over 20-year span, you have seen it all. You have no doubt witnessed the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent in law enforcement.
Yes, I've seen everything that you could possibly imagine. Suicides, homicides, violent crimes, property crimes, drug crimes, you name it, I've seen it. I've tried to help people and been right in the mix of all of it.
Wow. So now when you talk about, first of all, I want to ask you this because, I mean, to make the decision to run for sheriff, how hard was that for you?
It was very hard. I knew that I needed to prepare myself with as much knowledge as I could possibly gain
Okay.
from law enforcement, and that's why I waited, for so long to try to step out on that platform.
So it's always been something that you had dreamed of doing or seeing yourself doing.
Yes, it's always.
It's not something that just popped up in your head and you took off.
No, this has been a dream that I have always tried to push myself forward to try to, meet the goals. And with 24 and a half years of law enforcement experience, I've done everything that you could possibly imagine in law enforcement. Anywhere from taking somebody to jail for a crime to helping them stay out of jail, giving them, some sort of resolutions with issues. Drug work, I've done drug work, vice work. I mean, I've done it all.
So you've seen every facet of the law enforcement arena that has really prepared you for this moment here of running for sheriff.
Yes, I have worked in every department with the sheriff's office. So I know how it should be run and how it needs to be run, what's working and what's not working.
Because you've seen it
I've seen
firsthand.
it firsthand.
Wow. So I mean, there's a lot I want to get into, but I don't want to get into it too fast because we're going to be here for another 45 minutes. But I want to slow walk this journey because I want people to really, I mean, for those of you who are listening, I'm talking to candidate for Gadsden County Sheriff William Buckhoff. I had the opportunity to meet him for the very first time. I didn't meet him. He joined the law enforcement in 2020. So he 2000. So he joined in 2000. He wasn't around trying to catch me.
Right.
Yeah, you wasn't around. But he joined in 2000. And I had the opportunity to meet him when I was in the courtroom with Judge Gunner. And I was there because I take an interest in our youth, in our young African-American males, because so many of them are being placed in detention centers, graduating to jails, getting another degree, going on to prison. So to curb that path, I sit there and try to find solutions to offer that can help kids change direction. That's where we had the opportunity to meet. And in meeting you, you came up to me, and I had been coming back and forth. And you said something that was really alarming, because I said to you, I say, how is it that you feel you can be effective as a white male and a county that is predominantly African Americans? And when we look at the crime and when we look at the gap that is before us, how can you be effective? And you said something that was so profound. You said, I don't look at color. People are people.
That's correct.
And
There is no color. If your heart love, you love everybody, no matter what color, no matter your religion, beliefs, or anything. You love a person for a person. And that's just the way I was always taught.
And that meant a lot to me because, at the end of the day, we are always in a position to whereby we make color a barrier.
Yes.
But it's about people. It's not about party. It's about people. And if you got the heart to serve people, and that day we started talking about the youth, we started talking about the number of things that we were seeing happening with our young people in Gadsden. I think at the time you were serving in the courthouse.
Yes, I was the supervisor over court services.
And I'm sure disheartening seeing the number of
Young males just going to prison. It's not 12 months, 13 months. These kids were sentenced to life. You know, they're gone forever. Our future leaders are just been locked up and basically forgotten about.
wow.
Mamas and daddies back home, you know, just suffering because they can't see them. You know, no more cookouts, no more family functions, and it's very disheartening.
Well, since we're on that, let me ask you this, because I mean, anyone who knows me and who really knows me, they know that I'm a strong advocate for our youth. I'm an advocate for second chances. I'm an advocate for making sure that we have some preventive methods in place to kind of curb what we're seeing. When you think about the juvenile rate, and when you think about the statistics when it comes to Gadsden County, what would you do to implement a plan or a program to deter that courtroom that Judge Garner sits in, that's filled twice a month with juveniles? What would you do that would be done differently that is not being done?
There's got to be a positive atmosphere for our kids. You know, whenever I was coming up, we didn't have a lot of shootings. You know, if you had a problem with somebody, y'all fought it out, and then 15 minutes later, you were best friends. There's got to be some kind of violence deterrent program that we can implement, and mentoring our kids to be able to get them back in a positive atmosphere. You know, when we were all young coming up, everybody wanted to be the police or firemen. That's all they wanted to do because they knew about it. They knew what their job was. They weren't scared of them. There was a rapport with the police department and the kids. We've got to build that rapport back with our kids and start mentoring our kids with positive programs. That's the biggest thing. If you can make a positive impact on this child that 9 times out of 10 came from a broken home, that does not have any positive influence at the home whenever they're in school or whenever they're out playing sports and stuff, it's going to be a negative thing. But if we can turn that negative into a positive, and all of us come together, no matter what color, creed, or anything like that, we've got to come together to be able to save our kids. These kids that we're trying to save now, when we retire, that's going to be our leaders. And if we don't get them on the right path, we're not going to have anybody to help lead us.
Wow. You know, one of the things that I have been engaged in our public schools. I have engaged in our private charter, you name it. I have been engaged from the time that I was released from federal prison, because I sat inside of a prison and I saw a grandfather. I saw him sitting with his son, and I saw him sitting with his son. I saw 3 generations. And I made a vow that if I got out, I wanted to make sure that I can touch as many young people as I possibly could in efforts to save them.
Break the cycle.
And I never forget, I was doing a program over in the James A. Shanks Middle School, my team, and we had about maybe 20 kids, and we had a program designed. We was approved to be there, and we were making headways. All of our kids, I believe, are at risk. A lot of the kids that was in our program were kids that had committed some type of felony or some type of misdemeanor, and they were in school. And I'll never forget, I was called in and I was told that I couldn't be on the campus anymore because I had a background. And this was the sheriff department that did this. And I'm like, man, I've been doing this since the time I've been out of prison. And it kind of burdened me, because I'm like, here we are trying to save children. And there is no need to put in front of a child a bald-headed man trying to sell hair grease, and every time you see him, his hair is bald. Give them a person that they can relate to, and give them a person that relates to them so that there could be measures of saving them. How important is it for you to be able to implement programs that will foster the kind of relationship that these children need?
That's the best way to do it. You got to have somebody that's had the experience, that knows, that has made a mistake in their life, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, to be able to say, you don't want to do this. These are your consequences. If you would just do this and stay on this path, you don't have to experience what I've experienced in my past. But two, no man can judge any man. No man has the right to judge you, me, or anybody else. But we got to be able to touch the kids and, like you say, get down to their level and share the experiences that you've had personally, to be able to try to deter and break that cycle so that they won't follow in a bad path.
Wow, I think that's important. And one of the things that I want to ask you is that, not only are we having issues with our children, but when we talk about law enforcement, and as you about to become the next sheriff of Gadsden County, let me just say it like this: people just don't trust law enforcement. I mean,
You're right.
at the end of the day, there was a time that law enforcement officers were trusted people, trusted voices, but that's not happening now in the county of Gadsden. I've been hearing from a lot of people that law enforcement officers can't be trusted. What will you do to bridge that trust gap? Because there's a gap that has to be filled if we're going to have community and cops work together. What would you do to bridge that, to build back that trust with the community?
Like you said, the rapport has got to be rebuilt between the law enforcement and citizens. What better way to do it to impanel a volunteer citizens board of key people from each area: Havana, Chattahoochee, Scotttown, St. John area, and to have a meeting every month. Those key people meet with myself, key people of my command staff, to figure out what's going on in the community. Once we do that, then we start venturing out, or once the rapport is built back with the key people, then you start venturing back out with your community policing and making contact with the citizens and start rebuilding that trust with them. Until we have a trust with the citizens, it's going to be hard. It's not impossible, but it's going to be harder for law enforcement to solve crimes, to deter crimes, because people just aren't going to talk. But if we build a rapport back, the community themselves will police their own neighborhoods. Not saying going out there putting somebody in jail or something like that, but they will call and say, I seen this guy here was doing this. But if they can't confide in you without you, or without them worried about you telling somebody on the streets that Mary called me and told me that Billy was doing this or that, it's not going to happen. They've got to be able to have the trust with the law enforcement officers themselves.
Wow. And I don't want to really, put you in no ways, on the spot, on the situation, but I think that is so key. And when you talk about being able to hear from different communities, because I'm sure every community in Gadsden is different.
Yes.
The needs of the community are different.
Yes.
And when you talk about having law enforcement as the sheriff, you saying you're going to create different citizens boards in different communities. That's not happening now.
No, that's not happening now. We don't have a citizen panel board with the sheriff's office, or they didn't when I left in May, and it hadn't been for years.
So how is I guess there wouldn't be a lines of communication if there's not that opportunity to have city, county, town hall meetings with to hear what these individual concerns are.
You have the commission meetings, and some people go and they voice concerns about roadways or lighting or things like that. But it's just gotten to the point now where there's been crimes that's been committed in the county, and people don't even call because nobody comes.
Wait. You're saying there are crimes being committed that people don't call
They will not call.
because they feel like no one's going to come.
That's correct.
Wow. Okay. So, oh man, that's that, and that I think that puts our community in harm's way.
No doubt.
I mean, if there are crimes being committed and no one is calling, then two things are happening. One, I don't feel that law enforcement is going to respond. And then two, it's best that I don't even call and say anything because I could be in harm's way for even calling.
And tell them.
Wow.
Yep.
So you feel that one of the things that must be done if elected sheriff of Gadsden County is to create a more working relationship where the community can feel safe and can feel that law enforcement can be trusted, because now we're at a place where there's no trust.
There's no trust. Citizens have got to be able to feel comfortable enough to call law enforcement, to be able to confide in them, whether it be personal issues or crimes that are being committed. Now, everybody that has crimes against them, I'm not saying it doesn't call, but there's a slim picking, a few people that they have just not called. And I've actually bumped into them on the campaign trail, knocking on doors, talking to people, and they're like, I got robbed. I said, well, did you make a report? No. Well, why not? Well, nobody's going to go. And I said, oh. So I said, that's one of the issues we got to address. So we got to build a rapport back with them.
So now let me ask you this, because I guess you like you say, you had to resign in May.
Yes.
So from May, you've been out, and I'm sure even before resigning, you've been out talking. So I guess working in law enforcement, you see it from the inside. But then once you're out talking with people, you hear it from the outside. So what you see on the inside is being echoed
on the outside.
From the outside.
It is.
And one of the things that I've discovered, and I'm not saying that this is happening in Gadsden, but I know it's happening over here. There are a lot of people who are fearful of speaking out. They are fearful of making any kind of noise about what they see, all because of retaliation.
Yes.
I don't know whether that happens over there, but how would you respond to people who would like to share with you constructive criticism or share with you some things that they feel could be done better? Would they be retaliated against?
No, and I am very open to any kind of criticism from anybody. That's the only way that we're going to be able to learn. If you can't take corrective criticism in law enforcement, it's the wrong profession for you to be in. Because there's going to be a lot of people that don't like law enforcement right off the bat, but there's a lot of people that do like law enforcement. But like I said, the rapport has got to be built back, and the trust has got to come from the citizens to where they can actually call law enforcement and be able to confide and not worry about being retaliated against, whether it's through law enforcement or through somebody in the streets.
Wow. Great. So you know that there has to be a plan in place to bridge the trust gap.
Yes. Right off the bat.
You know that.
Right off the bat.
Well, let me ask you this, because I listen, like I said, I listened to the forum you all had, and I knew I was going to interview you, so I kind of wanted to piggyback from some of the things that I heard there. If elected as sheriff, what would you do different than the current sheriff when it comes to all of the drug infiltration that is coming inside of the county? I know we went through this big thing not too long ago where fentanyl just invaded. I mean, you all made national news.
Yes, we did. Very, very, very big issue. We lost 12, 13 people there within a matter of 30 days. The thing that I want to do, when you start talking about drug task force members and drug task force programs, everybody always thinks of Leon County or TPD because they're always intertwined and they're a very upstanding department. I want Gadsden County to be able to say, we built, this is our task force.
So there's not a task force now or something?
There's a task force, but I don't think that we have any, or there wasn't anybody that I know of when I left in May that was actually teamed up with the task force to work narcotics in Gadsden County.
Okay, so now help me understand that. Now just break that down in the most simplest term so that I can understand that.
You have to have an investigator with an agency
Okay.
working dope. That's working the dope scene 24/7. What they do is they'll build cases with sales or whatever they're doing. Then they'll ask the task force to come in and then help them with either the search warrant, or they might have a confidential informant that they can use to try to make buys in certain areas.
Mhm.
But if you don't have an investigator or somebody that's working narcotics in your department, the task force is useless. Leon County can't come over here and just start making buys in our county with a CI. I mean, it's not feasible. And actually, somebody from a different county coming into Gaston County that nobody knows, they're not going to sell them anything anyway. So it's just, you know, how the game goes.
Right.
I want Gaston County to build its own task force, managed, run, created by Gaston County Sheriff's Office, made up of every municipality members in Gaston County. And so we can say this is Gaston County's task force.
So you're saying that your vision is to create a task force with an officer from Havana, with an officer from Gretna, with an officer from Chattahoochee, with an officer from Midway.
If not multiple from each agency.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
But I want it created so that we can say, you know, like I said, when people start talking about TPD, they think about Leon County Sheriff's Office because they're so close as far as being a very respectable, you know, sheriff's office or police. I want it to be the same way in Quincy. I want them to say Quincy Police Department, you automatically think about Gaston County Sheriff's Office. To have that respect, to have people say, man, you go to Gaston County, you're gonna get in trouble if you got dope on you. Or if you're doing anything wrong in Gaston County, they're gonna get you. They got a task force over there. But I want it to be made up of our people in our county. Because if you use the people from your county, they're least likely to get out there and start violating somebody's civil rights because you got to see this person in the next week or the next month or when they get out of jail, you know, things like that. So they'll take more heart to what they're doing in their county because they live in that county. And that's another thing. We got to get more people involved in law enforcement from Gaston County.
Wow. I think that's key. And I think, at this time, I mean, law enforcement officers and law enforcement on a national level has been kind of looked at real differently now because there's so much abuse that is taking place with law enforcement, with officers. One of the things that I know is that safety is key for our citizens, especially our seniors. Being able to feel safe, being able to know that safety is a big issue. What are you thinking about implementing that may not be in place or enhanced? To ensure that the residents, the community can feel safe as citizens with the sheriff department?
Well, the first thing that's got to happen is we got to have more manpower. We got to have more deputies on the streets at all times. 2 deputies per rotation at times and a supervisor is just not cutting it for Gaston County. The only way to be able to do that is to be able to go out and recruit, build your staffing up. We got to have more staffing. We got to have more people. And the only way that you can do that, get out and recruit, get out and talk to the public, more community policing, more community contacts. Don't just get in a car and ride around and wave at somebody. Get out and talk to them. Say, hey, how you doing? Any concerns in the area? But until we start doing that and we build that rapport back with the citizens, it's not going to change.
Got a question coming in through the social media. Someone said the trust in law enforcement in Gaston County goes deeper than Sheriff Morris Young. What's your thought? He's the sheriff. You're vying to be the sheriff. It goes deeper than the sheriff.
I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. I think that there are contacts with outside agencies that are a little bit higher than we are, or they are. That it's kind of like if you know this person, you don't have to worry about getting in trouble, or your circumstances aren't going to be as bad as if you didn't know this person. And there's strings that are being pulled, and it's basically politics.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that we're going to try to stay away from as much as possible. There's always going to be politics in law enforcement. I get that. But there needs to be more service of law than there needs to be of politics. But I do think that it's definitely a lot deeper than just Marshawn.
As the sheriff, I mean, as the leader goes, so the people go. So if you're a good leader, you got to create good people to work with you. You got to have good people who will follow. People got to see the leadership inside of you
Yes.
as you exercise. My question to you is, when you look at the department that you work in for 20 plus years, you worked in every facet of it. What are some of the things you see that you would implement that's not been implementing? I was listening to you all talk the other night, and you all were talking about a system when it comes to checking data, when it comes to checking what crimes are being committed in certain areas. And you said there's no way to tell whether crimes are being committed because you have not implemented this system.
Well, the system, it's called UCR reports.
UCR reporting. Right?
So I mean, your UCR report, like at the end of this year, should be reported for the year prior, which would be 2023. If the UCR reports aren't being utilized and turned in and submitted, how can you say that crime is down, or this type of crime is down, or this type of crime is happening? Matter of fact, I believe they just talked about it last night with the city of Quincy on their commission meeting, where it breaks it down whether you have violent crimes, gun crimes, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
But it also falls back to your system that you use as far as reporting. Like the sheriff's office uses Smart Cop, Chattahoochee uses Smart Cop. I believe Gretna uses Smart Cop as well. If that system isn't up to date and working at 100%, when you're doing your reports, your numbers aren't getting submitted to FDLE. When I left the sheriff's office in May and started in Chattahoochee as a captain with them at the police department, my first report, I was lost when I got into their system, because their system was actually up to date and the sheriff's office system was so far behind. It was just totally different. If you manage your systems, your reporting systems, and you manage your data, you will be able to tell what kind of crimes are being committed, where the crimes are being committed, and your solvable rates as well.
Wow. So there's no way to tell the number of robberies that are taking place.
You can go in with like Smart Cop, and you could actually break it down from that system, but you can't go online. Like years past, you could go on the FDLE website underneath the UCR reports for Gaston County. You could see the crimes.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers aren't going to be adequate now because that system is not reporting to FDLE from the sheriff's office. Now you could, like I said, you can go in Smart Cop, you could break it down by crime, by location, by person, and it'll tell you that way. But you would have to manually, physically do that inside the sheriff's office system.
Wow. And do you feel like this is needed as a candidate for sheriff? Do you feel like this is something that you would definitely ensure that is there?
That is a system that will actually bring money into Gaston County. If it's utilized and reported correctly, there's grant money that you could actually get to help with victims of certain crimes and try to, deter these types of crimes. So why not utilize it? I mean, it's already there. Bring it up to date, make it work correctly. It's free federal funding or state funding for it. It's just free money for the county.
Wow. So now you are a candidate against a incumbent who's been in office for over 20 plus years. He's been serving the people of Gaston as sheriff for 20 years or more. What do you feel like you would do differently that he hasn't done that you know need to be done?
Accountability. Hold everybody accountable. Everybody's going to be held accountable. Everybody's going to have their jobs that they're supposed to be doing. They're going to do their jobs, or we're going to find somebody that's going to do their jobs. You got to be consistent, and you got to let the citizens hold you accountable. As long as the citizens hold us accountable and you hold your people accountable that's working for you, everything else will fall in line. But you got to build a good command staff too that the citizens will actually trust.
So you feel like there's no accountability within the sheriff's department?
There's no accountability.
So people just do whatever they want to do?
Basically. Seen it for a long time.
Okay, seeing it for over 20 plus years inside of the office, do you feel that you're not the only person who's seen it?
No, there's other deputies and ex-employees that work there that have seen it.
Is it hard to have a conversation about what you all see?
No, not at all.
Is it hard to talk to the sheriff about what you see?
You can't talk to the sheriff. You know, when Marsh first took office, he had an open door policy. You could go in and sit down and talk to Marsh. In the last several years, you had to call Marsh on the phone if he answered, or you had to make an appointment with Miss Saunders to be able to go see him. You couldn't just walk in and see your boss and talk to your boss. Certain people could, but the majority of the people couldn't, as far as employees.
What type of environment does that create?
Negative. You got to lead by example. If you can't lead in a positive way, your people aren't going to give you a good outcome. If you put a person that wants to do, let's just say traffic, if he wants to get out there and write tickets, that's all he wants to do. That's his dream, get out there and write tickets. And you stick that person in a school resource position, what you think is going to happen? The outcome or the productivity is going to be low. If you put him in a spot that he wants to be in, that he's fit for, your productivity is going to be high because that's what he wants to do. That's what his dream is. That's what keeping his heart pumping, because he wants to get out there and make that difference doing traffic. He don't want to have to sit here in an SRO position or in a courthouse position. He wants to get out and be proactive. And that's one of the things that we need too is they got to be out and they got to get proactive.
Wow. Basically, let me ask you this because I feel like this is important. With the department and you, as you look to become the next sheriff of Gadsden County, there has been a number of people who have left the sheriff's department. What is the cause? I mean, I don't know whether you know the cause, but what do you feel like some of the reasons?
I can tell you what I've been told from some of the people that have left. I know that our retention span for a deputy has been maybe 12 months to 18 months. And people are leaving because it's such a negative atmosphere. If you're in with a certain clique, you're all right. Everything's good. If you're not in with that certain clique, give a little bit of a pushback on it. That's it. It's over. I've always been the person to try to better anybody. If they want to go somewhere else and do something better for their life, man, I'm all for it. Do it. If that's what's going to make you happy and it's going to better you in your life, I'm 100% behind you. If you tell people, I don't care if you're here or not, I don't need your 2-week notice. You can go ahead and leave now. You're going to do it this way, and that's the only way it's going to be done. You can't treat people like that. If you got a good positive atmosphere in a working area, your productivity will be through the roof. But you got to make your people happy. I'm not saying give them anything they want, but you got to have a good positive atmosphere, and to be able to have that, you got to have good leadership.
All right. I got a question that comes in on the social media thread. Someone said, what capacity have you served in as a deputy? I've never seen or heard of you.
I started out as a corrections officer.
And that was at
Sheriff's Office, Gadsden County Sheriff's Office,
okay.
Under W.A. Woodham. I went to patrol deputy. I was a corporal.
So when you said corporal, that means you supervise people?
Well, I was like second in charge on the squad.
Okay, second in charge on the squad.
I went to K9. So I was in a specialized K9 drug interdiction unit. I went to sergeant. I had,
So as a sergeant, were people up under you working?
yes, I had a squad that I was over for a 12-hour tour.
Okay, so let me ask you this then, because accountability just was another thing on the thread. Because someone said, well, if there was no accountability, was you accountable? And as a sergeant, were people accountable to you, or were you, how did that go?
No, they were accountable to me, and I was accountable to the lieutenants and the captains and the majors and then the sheriff.
So everybody had a boss.
Yes, everybody's got a boss, all the way up to the sheriff. So me being a sergeant, yeah, I was held accountable, but I held my people accountable as well. If you messed up, there was corrective, whether it be verbal or written or whatever we had to do to, corrective measures. And then it was forwarded up the change. If I'd done something wrong, it was forwarded to the lieutenant. Lieutenant talked to me. We done whatever, whatever the case, was. But from there, I went to vice narcotics. I worked homicides, property crimes. When I left CID, I went back into K9 and then back to lieutenant as watch commander.
Wow. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. So basically you have served in a number of positions that whereby you were either supervising individuals in law enforcement that was a part of your team, or you had a great responsibility to oversight a division that you was in charge of.
Yes, I was one of the team leaders for our SWAT team whenever it was up and running. So I mean, that was one of probably the most dangerous programs that I was in, because we were the ones that were kicking the doors in, serving search warrants, or we were trying to find somebody that was on a violent felony warrant or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I had people's lives in my hands every day.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because one of the things that is important is basically the budgeting of how things are being done to ensure things are really operating as they should. When you look at you vying to become the next sheriff of Gadsden County, what would be your key priorities when it comes to the sheriff department?
Citizen safety, that's the first. Citizen safety, make sure that people are safe. Second thing would be start implementing divisions where we can do drugs, mental health, traffic units. But the biggest thing though with being the sheriff is not only having the safety of the citizens first top priority, but then you got to figure out what is necessary for the safety for the citizens and what's not necessary. And the not necessaries is things that we just don't purchase through budget items. If it's necessary for the community and to keep the citizens safe, I'm all for it. But just the wants to be able to look pretty, shine, it's unnecessary. And if we can take that money and pour it back into the community be a lot better off.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, listen, I want to ask you this because one of the things that is so important for me is knowing that our city, our county has proper staffing. Where do you feel like there is a decrease in staff at the sheriff's department now, or is it properly staffed to provide what is needed for the entire counties?
We're definitely not staffed to be able to give the citizens what they're needing as far as feeling safe. We have, well, when I left,
How many shifts is there?
there's 4 shifts. And to be on a good platform to be able to send somebody for calls for service, my vision is to have, we got 4 zones in the county, 2 deputies per zone with a supervisor. So that would be 9 people on the shift. And I don't see why there would be any issues, budgetary restraints, if you utilize the money where it needs to be utilized.
So there are 4 zones and your vision is to have 9 people covering those 4 zones with a supervisor.
with a supervisor.
How many people are there not covering those zones?
There's some nights there's 2 deputies and a supervisor.
So in 4 zones throughout the county.
You got 2 deputies. One Middle East, that's from the courthouse to Havana. One Middle West, which is the courthouse to Chattahoochee. And then a supervisor that floats back and forth.
So with that being said, my question now becomes, if your vision is to have 9 people covering 4 zones, and there are only 2 people and a supervisor, are there any MOUs with any of the other municipalities in Gadsden County that can come to the aid and help facilitate if a crime was being committed in the county?
If it was a life or death situation, like where somebody is being hurt, I'm sure because they have a duty to act that they would come out. But as far as MOUs, no, there is no MOU with City of Quincy, Gretna, Chattahoochee, or Havana, or Midway. I don't believe there's one in Midway, but I'm almost positive it's not. So no, I mean, you have 2 deputies and you got a supervisor. If you have a burglary that's being committed, you know, you're going to try to go to that person and try to help them. And then your supervisor is going to try to come with you. And hopefully that you don't have something on the east side of the county that pops off if you're going to the west side. I've done it. I've been there. I've been a supervisor with 2 deputies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's hard and it's not fair to the citizens. You know, I'm running, when I was there, back and forth from Havana to Chattahoochee, trying to back this deputy up or this deputy up, and we just don't have the manpower. Staffing is so low at the sheriff's office. It's inadequate to be able to serve the citizens of Gadsden County the way it should be.
Someone says, I've lived here for almost 18 years, and the safety or the citizen concern for safety has never been an issue to me. When I've called or needed a deputy, it has not been an issue. Well, I mean, that young person needs to be applauded, because I'm sure you know a lot of people who have called and needed deputies and it didn't happen.
Like I said, since I've started my campaign trail in February of 2021, I have met a lot of people since then in the streets that have had crimes committed against them and they've not called. There's been 3 weeks ago, I spoke to a man out of Shady Rest Road, stitches all up his arm, beat real bad. I asked him what happened. He said, I got robbed. I said, what'd you call? No. Why not? Why call? They ain't gonna come. I said, somebody would have come if you'd have called. He said, I don't think so. So it falls back to the rapport and the communication and connection between the citizens and the law enforcement. They've gotten to a point in Gadsden where they just don't trust law enforcement.
Wow. Hey, well, listen, young lady said it's more than 2 deputies on duty. I mean, and we're not getting into a debate about it. I mean, you've been there for how long? 24 and a half years. And I'm sure you are well aware of the number of deputies that cover the 4 zones.
I'm not saying that there's only 2 deputies every shift. There are times that I have worked as a supervisor, a road patrol supervisor.
Okay, that means you're on the road.
I'm on the road. Okay. And I had 2 deputies working zones. It happens more often than not.
Okay, great. So we're not talking fiction here. We're talking facts. And we applaud all of you all for your Derek, is it possible to provide brief explanation about jurisdiction responsibilities between the sheriff department and individual city police departments?
The only thing it's just an understanding with the sign between the chief of police and the sheriff to give his officers, like the city of Chattahoochee, Quincy, Gretna, whatever, the authority to come out into the county and to help the county if need be. Now, we're not given free reign to come out of the county, say Quincy to the lake, to be able to run traffic and things like that. That's not what that's about. But if we need their assistance or their help, they've got to have an MOU in place to say that they're allowed to come out of their jurisdictions and then to help us.
Wow. So an MOU would make all of that a legal
Yeah, I mean, they would be allowed to come out of their jurisdiction
to help
to help.
because they patrol within that municipality, whether
Yes.
it's Savannah, the city of Havana, or city of Midway.
Right.
You all handle the county. So there must be an MOU there to say they can come out of that district.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So do you hold the sheriff accountable if a citizen don't call? Come on. I don't think that's being said, my brother. I think what is being said is that people who are living in areas are in places whereby there is a level of distrust. I mean, to the point that they don't call. And if there is a level of real communication taking place, then there's a level of trust that's being built. So therefore, people will feel more safe and comfortable. Dealing with law enforcement is a tough task. And I recall when they had self-surrender, when a lot of ex-felons had warrants out. And to get guys to come and turn themselves in because they had a warrant was difficult. But me being an ex-felon, I came aboard with the sheriff and I made it clear to many guys that, hey, listen, you're not going to jail. This is a moment for you to turn yourself in. Even though you got a warrant, they are trying to work so that you can turn yourself in and go on with a new life. So building a level of trust, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's pastoring, whether it's running a business, whatever it is so important that people trust you to know that you're going to do what you say and you say what you mean.
Right.
So with that being said, why should people in Gadsden County vote for William Buckhoff? With the 3 minutes that I have left, it's all yours.
What I can say is that there will be accountability for the sheriff's office. We will do what's right. We will be held accountable for the taxpayers' dollar. There is nothing for us to hide as far as what the taxpayers will spend their money on. And we will definitely be fighting the drugs. We will definitely be fighting, aggressive driving. We've got to have some kind of placement for mental health. And one of my things that I'm going to really push for when I first get in there is a receiving center for people that are asking for help for mental issues to be able to have a place to go. And for our kids, I mean, we've got to do something for our kids. The kids are the biggest thing now that, they're, like I said, they're our future leaders. If we don't do something for our kids, we're losing too many to the court system now as it is. If there's not a positive atmosphere for them, they're just going to keep going down the wrong road, whether they've been in trouble or whether they're headed to trouble. Even if they've been in trouble, there still needs to be some sort of reform to where we can get them back out there and get them in a positive atmosphere.
Wow. Hey, listen, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It's always my pleasure to sit down and talk to candidates who are vying for office. And one of the things I want to say to all of you who are registered voters, your vote is your choice. You're never going to get me in a debate. You're never going to get me to argue. You're never going to get me to respond back to you on Facebook on how you feel, because that's your choice. And it's my choice. So therefore, I encourage all of you to get out and vote. I encourage you to do your research. And I encourage you to vote for the person, the individual that you feel who will best serve the needs of the people. That's the most important thing that you've got to do. I don't vote because somebody's popular. I don't even vote for them because they're my friends. I vote with individuals that I understand who know what my concerns are. And if my concerns are aligned with their vision, then they got my vote. So I'm not going to lose friendship with you about who you vote for. I mean, we got a lot of heated races going on in Tallahassee. And guess what? I have people calling me all the time saying, Greg James, I can't believe it. I said, wait, believe it. I write my own checks. I pay for my own airtime. So therefore, I interview who I desire to interview. And therefore, I vote in support who I desire to vote for. Hey, listen, it's been an amazing show. Thank you so much, William Buckhoff. He is the candidate for Gadsden County Sheriff Department. Early voting, mail voting is taking place. And what I need you to do, I need you to vote. But then I also need you to become actively involved in the community to help bring about some of the changes that you want to see happen. Don't just talk about it. Let's get down to the grounds and let's be about it. Until next week, stay tuned. I've got some more candidates coming up that's going to be a blessing to you. Until then, this is the Greg James Community Show, and I want to say thank you so much, William Buckhoff, for joining me, and good luck and and move forward. I always say, and congratulations in your efforts. All right, God bless you. Until next week, it's the Greg James Community Show saying, get out and let's vote. Hey, listen, it's been an amazing time, and okay, somebody said we tried to meet with Buckhoff, but he refused.
Anybody try to meet me or you?
Okay, sir, he said he don't know whether anybody tried to meet with him and that he refused. Buckhoff. Okay, great interview. Hey, thank you so much, Rico. This is what I do, man. I bring people to the table. I ask questions. I get people involved. And at the end of the day, you got to do the research and you got to make your choice. I'm the person who consciously checks the conscience to say, hey, we make it happen. That's what the Greg James Community Show is all about. And that's why I do what I do. And I do it without any strings attached. I thank God for the Life Church International family who supports my efforts. And at the end of the day, they give me the liberty and the freedom to speak just like I want to speak. All right. Y'all be blessed.